Well, welcome to Legacy of the Lakes Museum in Alexandria, Minnesota. I'm Dave Bortner, a board member here at the museum, and I'm kind of the designated boat geek, so I get the job of having fun talking about boats. And every year we like to really focus on our temporary exhibit, which changes annually. This year we're featuring Dodge boats, and of course Dodge boats, I'm always asked, well, that must have been part of Dodge cars. Well, kinda, sorta, but not really. So the story of the Dodge brothers, they immigrated to Detroit around the turn of the century when there was all sorts of activity going on in Detroit related to auto manufacturing, and the technology was advancing very rapidly. And the Dodge brothers, John and Horace, were very skilled machinists. So in not very long, they had their own manufacturing facility, and they were machining parts mostly for other manufacturers. One of their customers got in trouble and was not able to pay for an order of parts that they had fabricated, and so the customer offered them stock in payment, stock in the auto company in payment for their $8,000 manufacturing bill, and they reluctantly accepted that offer. And it turned out that that customer was Henry Ford, and the stock became worth vastly more than their $8,000 bill. Henry hated himself for doing it and couldn't buy the stock back fast enough from the Dodge brothers, but that gave the Dodge brothers the capital to begin manufacturing cars and get into competition with Henry Ford. So the Dodge manufacturing of automobiles began and became very successful. Unfortunately, both the Dodge brothers died within 9 months of each other in 1920 of influenza, amazingly enough. And so the widows, both John's widow and Horace's widow, Anna, continued to hold the stock, run the company for a short period of time, a couple years, and then they sold it to an investment banking group. It was the largest cash industrial transaction, industrial purchase in history at that time. And then several years later, the investment banking group sold Dodge to Walter Chrysler. So that left the Dodge families with a whole bunch of money and not a whole lot to do. Horace E. Dodge Jr., Horace's son, was enjoying the wealth of the family. He was a party guy, he was a drinker and a smoker, and he was married a bunch of times. But his hero was Garwood, and he wanted to emulate Garwood and Garwood's success in boat racing and in building boats. So he talked his mother into funding the Dodge Boat Company. The original plan was to sell Dodge boats through the Dodge automobile dealers, manufacture them on a production line, and bring the cost of boating down so that more people could participate in boating. So they contracted with the Racine Boat Company in Racine, Wisconsin to build the first 130 some hulls of what was called the Dodge Water Car, starting in 1922. And then they subsequently moved production to the Detroit area and eventually built a purpose-built boat building factory in Newport News, Virginia. So the Dodge water car thing didn't work out all that well as far as selling the boats through the Dodge car dealerships. However, Horace had his mother's ear and checkbook, most importantly, and was able to fund whatever direction that he wanted to go in the boat business. So they began manufacturing more luxurious runabout style boats. We're featuring 3 of them in this year's temporary exhibit. 2 are the same model, which is a kind of a famous model of the Dodge boat, the 21.5-foot split cockpit, 1 cockpit ahead of the engine, 1 cockpit behind the engine. And then the larger boat here is a 26-foot Dodge. And so Horace had the ability to hire the best marine designers and the best craftsmen and put out a really fantastic product. They were ahead of the game in building the best hardware. These windshields fold flat, so the V-shaped center panes fold down on the deck and secure, and then these wing windows fold over the top of the V when it's down. One important thing to point out with Dodge boats is the Dodge boat was the only boat that had a hood ornament. The Mermaid, as she's known. And if you look somewhat closely, you'll see that it was a little bit risque for the time. Dodge, because of the financial capabilities that the Dodge family had in 1930, as the Depression made the boat business a not very good business to be in anymore, they were able to continue purchasing and producing boats. And one of the advantages that they had was that they were cash buyers of parts. So they were able to go to E.L. Cord at Auburn Cord Duesenberg. Lycoming was a division of Auburn Cord Duesenberg, and they were able to go to Cord and say, we want to buy marine engines, Lycoming marine engines. Oh, and by the way, the name of the company is the Horace E. Dodge Boat and Plane Company. So we may be buying some aircraft engines from you later. There never was a plane. There never was. However, they talked E.L. Cord into it. And so they were purchasing Lycoming engines. That's one of the interesting things about these boats is that the Lycoming engine in this boat is a straight 8. It's an 8-cylinder inline engine, 135 horse in the 21.5-foot model, 165 horse, it's a bigger engine, but also a straight 8 in the 26 feet. And in addition to buying engines, buying Lycoming engines, they also talked Cord into selling them the Duesenberg steering column, which is a very unique layout in the center of the wheel. In the Duesenberg automobile, there was a throttle, choke, and spark advance knobs, and it's a very recognizable design among automotive enthusiasts and was recognizable at the time. And then there's a push-pull-shift knob in the dash as well, which was an Auburn automobile feature that they were also able to purchase from Cord. So Dodge was set up. They also had fabulous advertising that ran virtually everywhere important, Forbes and Fortune and architectural magazines, and each ad featured an original piece of art showing a Dodge boat in motion in a marine environment. And the marketing was very forward-thinking for the time, and I think going back to the automotive industry where the Dodge family kind of grew up, they were marketing even their more luxurious offerings as they would a luxurious automobile. So Dodge was positioned to be another major manufacturer of powerboats, the likes of Garwood, Hackercraft, Chris-Craft. And Horace also had an interest in racing, driven by wanting to compete with and best his mentor, Gar Wood. So we have the kind of the crown of our exhibit this year is a Dodge race boat. This is a 1923 race boat called Baby Horace III, which was named after Horace Jr.'s son, Horace III. And again, with the Dodge wealth, Horace was able to enlist all sorts of mechanical assistance, be it from the Duesenberg brothers, Harry Miller. So he had all sorts of resources there to try to help him compete and win races. Now, where this all kind of fell apart was that Horace had a hard time applying himself to running the boat company, or even to showing up and practicing for races and actually showing up on time to race, not having been out the night before. He liked to enjoy the group of people that hung around the boat race scene in the party mode. So it was really hard to get Horace to show up regularly. Many of the race boats were driven by other people than Horace, and a lot of the success that was achieved with the Dodge race boats was due to other drivers taking the wheel and making the success out of that part of the endeavor. So it is said that every Dodge boat that was sold at retail was a gift from Anna Dodge, and that's really true because they invested way more in the project and in creating the great product than they were ever be able to realize, because obviously the 1930s were not a great time for the boat business, and in fact Dodge was out of the boat business by 1935. The factory in Newport News, Virginia was closed, but then was reopened for World War II production, and actually earned several Navy E designations for the quality of their workmanship during the war. I don't know if Horace was directly involved in the running of that. I suspect not during World War II. However, he is featured pretty prominently in the award promotion and PR things. So poised to be a major manufacturer of the major manufacturer, we kind of feel that the fewest of all boats made were Dodge boats, and in fact we don't think that there are 100 of them total that exist today. So being able to pull together a collection of 4 of them for our exhibit is really a coup, I think, and it's due to friends like collector Lee Anderson in Nisswa, Minnesota, who lent us Baby Horace III, Russ Hagen, who is particularly smitten with Dodge boats, who owns this 21.5 footer and the 26 footer, and was kind enough to lend them to us. So that's a really great, we think, example of people believing in what we do here at Legacy of the Lakes, and helping us by lending us boats to make our temporary displays great. So we appreciate you joining us tonight, and we hope that you will watch this on video. It'll be on our YouTube channel by tomorrow, probably. So take another look at the beautiful Dodge boats, and we always appreciate any assistance you can give us financially. Even if it's a small amount, everything helps, everything counts, and we appreciate your support of our efforts in preserving our nautical history. Thanks.